doing this well. I didn't
That's
know. It looks like Zork.
Oxymoron.
Let's see. Didn't pick you up. I don't know if it hurt. I read your lips. So
You probably didn't want to.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tim,
Good.
you just get back into town, you've been
No, how you doing, Dave?
just haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
good. There you go for it. It's not recording, then.
Yep, no.
Okay, we have a quorum. I'd like to call the meeting to order.
You just did, yes.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes that were passed around? Any changes or revisions? I have a motion to accept meeting minutes from.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Okay, so on to new business. We're beginning with, or not new business, but the Harbor Master's report.
Oh. As most of you know, the floats are in. That went really well. No hiccups at all. Of course, Henry wasn't there, so it was took a minute to figure out which one went where. But we're gonna solve that problem. We're gonna route her in number, and so we know where they all
Here's
go.
your minute taker. Amelia's not here, so you might want to have somebody keep you.
Sign that to someone.
I was in a meeting, yesterday where they used AI. And it was,
Did it have a quorum?
yeah, they did, but it did a really nice summary. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Floats are in.
Floats are in. The mooring renewal sheets have gone out to everybody. Haven't gone out, but she's got them all done. They'll go out this week probably for all of those. Or at least prior to May 1st, we usually get it out of the town office. Might be a week early this year. I told you before I had 3 mooring notices, and I showed you the sheet, non-renewal, and that will go out this week. The select board policy went through as recommended by the harbor committee, so there were no changes. I have been working on the harbor master boat. There's a couple little things, hoses and things that needed to be fixed, and just registered and just lettered. I don't know if I brought that picture.
Where's the boat, at the transfer site?
No, I brought it down to my place because I could wash it and clean it all up and put the lettering on it. Came out pretty good.
Is the old one at the transfer station?
Yes.
The old one there?
Yeah.
You're gonna be selling that?
I think they're gonna, I don't know if they're gonna bid it or what. They may put a price on it, they may just, not need to put a price on it. Just have to-
Show natural size, what's that? Pretty cool. It looks clean. Same graphics on the other side, I assume, or?
Well, they go the other way.
Is it, and the 50 caliber mount is on the front, is that
The what?
50 caliber mount?
Yeah. That thing was born as a fishing boat. It really has everything.
Looks like it'll get you there.
But it's like, as you know, it's only 2 years old and it's warranted, everything's warranted until 27. So, anyhow, that's where we are with that. I'll probably launch that within a week. Then I can start the mooring work. We've got 4 new mooring requests, but we have 3 moorings going out. So, it won't be difficult to get that in. They're gonna sweep the streets on May 7th, and then the dock will get the lines painted shortly thereafter, after it's swept up. I did go to Troy Industries and ordered the aluminum strips with David.
They said it'd be back in.
Oh, okay. The aluminum strips go around the new tight necks on the Acadia dock that will lift there. Basically, it's gonna go at a little bit of an angle down for pressure, and then down to the concrete and out 2 inches. And then there's a piece of pressure treat that goes all around the perimeter. It's in between the concrete and tight necks, and we can screw down to that all the way around, and that'll pull that down. I think I made about 5,200 on the concrete just to keep it tight, so it doesn't, and it's oh shit. diamond plate. It's 8th inch. So we looked at the 16th up there and they didn't recommend it, just a little bit too thin.
Yeah.
And we're gonna screw this down fairly tight, so we thought, 8 would be better. So that's what we went with. I think that's all I'm doing. Right here.
Yeah, are there, life rings at the docks?
One is in, one got broken last year, just a bolt wouldn't come undone, and I think he's already fixed it. The one at the Acadia dock is in, and the one at the town dock will go in probably tomorrow. And then tomorrow, the ladder will go in, the Acadia dock. So, and the chains on the east side of the town dock and west side of the Acadia dock are on, and I couldn't get the ones up that are roped off over by the travel lift, so they're just stuck down. So I'm gonna go back at high tide tomorrow and see if maybe that'll make a difference. I know I would, but other than that, I'll have to get somewhere to tow it. Problem is rope breaks, you're gonna get a diver.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna touch around with it a little bit tomorrow and see if I can get it.
Yeah, if we can extend the line over to the dock, maybe the tidal action will just move it
It's
up.
about 4 feet short. I tried to do that at low tide
Yeah.
today, and it was about the length of my inflatable away from it. But I mean, I could tie another piece on it and bring it over. My intent was to take the boat and bring it over there. Couldn't get there from there, and I couldn't pull it at all. So,
How many years do you get out of those chains?
quite a lot, because they stay in the water and they don't get oxidized much. They get pretty yellow and greasy, but they're in really good shape. I don't know how long they've been there, but I remember when the last time I changed them, it was a while ago. And I think there's one new one on the west side of the town dock, and one of the old ones.
Yeah, you can put that in.
And the diver was in there.
Greg?
Yeah, he when he was here looking at the bulkhead, he looked at those for me, so they were fine. I think hopefully within a week I'll get those other chains on. And we did put all new rollers on the chains that hold to the pylons and filled it from anchor to anchor with all rollers, so that won't catch anymore.
Right.
The only thing we got really left of any caution is the steel one on the dinghy on the town dock.
It floats, yeah.
That needs to be pulled out and put back in and then welded on. Or something different. Maybe drill a hole in it and put a bolt in it or something. Might be better than take it off.
Yeah, otherwise we have a risk of that same thing happening again.
Where do we stand on new dinghy floats?
Oh,
You got a quote. You see
you
that?
got a quote?
Yeah.
No,
Outrageous.
it was, like,
50,000.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, way
45,000.
twice as much as David thought it would be, more than twice as much. The budget people, when they're, the select board and Karen and Deb were all on the budget committee, I guess. And when they finished the first one, there was a 27% increase in taxes. So they thought, well, they might want to redo that. So I'm sure that the float will never get into this year.
You talked to Tim Land? I was out there a week or two ago and they were building floats for somebody.
They
You guys
are.
build floats?
Yeah, they do the engineered ones they get the engineered drawings and then they build them.
Yeah, I see he's building the one in Penobscot, right, at the storage, outside storage book. I went by there today. He's got one there built with no deck on it, yeah. I can ask him.
Couldn't hurt.
I'm sure he
looking
would
for
bid
three.
on whatever we wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be this year.
No,
It's too late now.
Are we looking at 2 floats or 3? Because you need to get to the 2, right?
There's 3 floats and a bridge.
3 floats on the bridge. And the bridge is gonna be what, a ramp?
Maybe, I don't know. We've been talking about it because, I don't know why, but for some reason he wanted to keep all the floats the same size. 5'4" by 20, I think. And that's about 3 feet short of getting to the existing cannoned off floats.
So if you run and jump, you're good.
You know, keep the kids off. No, I think what,
You're the only one who could jump.
I think what we would just do, when we get the other 3 in, you know, one up against the bulkhead and then one coming back that way. At that point, take a measurement and then make the next float exactly right to go to the float.
Or an aluminum ladder or.
I mean, I guess you could, but the problem is, it's, you know, they're gonna be going like this all the time and it just.
Yeah, I
they
expect
need-
that concept.
I agree. They need to be
It has to be a commercial grade.
Dave's not here, but you and I didn't 100% agree on that, so.
Yeah,
They need to be put together for this, you know, so the rigidity of the ones up against the bulkhead and the whole line yards, so I'm sure that's what we'll do. It won't be this year.
Well, then maybe we would think about building the ramp or the bridge float in 2, and then eventually build the 3rd.
But but I will talk to him, I'll give him the drawings that I have for him and all the specs, and we'll see if he wants to do it in the fall. And if it's anywhere near cheaper, then we'll just do it local and you'll launch them and all that, if we need it.
But I think it would have to go out to bid,
Probably.
so we might have a number of people interested in that. Perhaps.
Kenny could build them in the fall, I mean, he's probably cheaper than anybody. He builds a lot of them, so. But anyhow, I think that's a next year project, anyway, because there's just no money. I think they got it down to like 15%, 14% increase this year. And that's gonna go on for a long time. Infrastructure in this town hasn't been touched in years, decades. And this time, we're gonna have to do something. And then we had a meeting today, about the gazebo, which is behind you. And
Also show natural signs.
that's pretty close to what we think we wanna do. Right?
I put it out there, wanted to hear what people had to say, and it's just really about a half day worth of sketching around. But I thought it could be like a pyramid roof, hip roof, probably going to like a metal roof, and sort of wraparound benches that wrap both the inside and outside of the space like we had before. And, it's sort of sized on the site plan to try to leave enough space for all the other, eating,
Little table kiosk.
tables that are all around it and all that. So really trying not necessarily to change it all that much, but to try to bring it up to, sort of a standard where we don't have studs every 2 feet in the way of viewing and things. So it's a little more open than the last one. And the bench should be a little more ergonomically designed than the last one. But
Do you have
we're
hurricane,
still working on the bench design and things like that.
do you have
Excuse me?
do you have hurricane ties on it?
Well, it gets tied down to the structure down below. The cross-section over on the right-hand side on the bottom shows the joists of the deck with the plastic decking over that. And what I'm proposing we do is have the post come down and sort of sit on the joist of the deck there and sort of half lap it and then get bolted through back into the joists. The joists are 4x10 pressure treated. So by putting a 6x6 down on that with like a half lap and bolted, and then putting some diagonal bracing in the structure, we feel that this structure would survive the same storms that we had there in January, as long as the dock does. Dock goes as all bets are off. But
So this is a year-round gazebo.
this one
It's heated.
would be a year-round. It's got solar heat. Wait
Air
for the sun to come out.
Sit on the sunny side.
I do notice that in a rainstorm, the people on the outer benches are gonna get wet knees.
Well, the roof extends further than the old roof, so it extends beyond the bench. So if there's, yeah, well, that'll happen no matter what. The rain will come from one side and get, even the inside bench is wet, no matter what.
Sit on the lee side.
So you sit on the lee side in that case. But this one, at least if it were doing just so, you know, drips when you have the fog and the drippy coming off the edge of the roof, at least it's not hitting the bench like the old one did. So you're extending the roof out beyond the bench a few inches. Trying not to block too much view down there, trying not to make something too big. The hip roof is sort of the least volume of blocking the view as someone drives down Main Street and approaches the town dock.
Sort of non-directional too.
Non-directional, sense of focal point of the space on the dock. A lot of things I think it's, you know, more hurricane resistant with all the, it would have diagonal bracing going all different directions as well as in the roof. At the plate level, there'd be some diagonal bracing at the plate. So it's not going anywhere in a storm. As long as the benches themselves might get battered and beaten up. And so we were talking about whether we should make the benches removable for a storm or not. And I think we came down on the position that when you make something removable, it tends to be pretty flimsy by the time you've assembled it and disassembled it 3 or 4 times. So we felt that we could attach the benches, and then if we had to, we would just rebuild benches after a storm or something.
Yeah, I think people would use it year round if it's not snow covered.
Yeah, I think the intent was to leave it and only remove it if a storm were known to be coming with the king tides. Like, we kind of had a 3-day warning on that storm, and, you know, I designed a second one, which is much more like the one that was there before, which was designed to be hauled off site. And I think the decision we were talking about this morning was that kind of situation, hauling something off site and bringing it back and putting it in, and it may just lead to sort of flimsy all around structure. So this one here is a little more sort of updating of the old one.
Anybody have any?
What was the roof material?
Well, the discussion this morning was with FEMA and with the state of Maine, and they're pretty much setting the budget based on the replacement cost of the old one. So if we try to stay within that replacement budget, the roof material would probably be more of an asphalt shingle like the old one was. But everyone at the meeting this morning felt that we should be upgrading to a standing seam metal roof with the goal of making something that will last longer and sort of look crisp and clean, like the railings that are down there now and the decking and everything. We just sort of bring it up to for the next 50 years rather than sort of looking like the last 50 years.
And we're talking about the harbor master shack needs to be done, and if we're gonna do this, I think we'll do that in the same scene.
Get one roofer down and do both structures at that time.
So is this project for this year or for next year?
They want to get this in before June, I think. We're trying to get, we're talking about what are the materials for it, whether it's, what are we shooting for in terms of budget, and that was sort of our discussions this morning. Like I said, this was just a sketch because they asked for ideas on it, and I thought, well, you could do this in pressure treated, you could do it in fancy lumber, you could do epay benches, which are very expensive, but they last a long time. There's all kinds of options, and we just sort of bantered around, and if you guys had some input of what you'd like to see in terms of whether you want it to be sort of painted or a natural wood finish or any of that type of thing.
How about the plastic
plastic material, you know,
For the
Recycled.
benches
yeah, the
themselves,
benches.
for the benches.
You don't have any maintenance.
The
involved.
challenge with any
Oh,
manufactured thing is or you're talking more like plastic decking, like.
Yeah, like, well,
Tracks.
whatever, yeah, tracks.
That type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's certainly an option. You know, we could look at those types of things, but we are trying to make something that feels good to your hand when you touch it. And, you know, it should have a certain amount of quality. The railings down there now are Ipe, and, you know, they have a certain quality to them. I don't think we want to get too plasticky with this whole thing.
See, it was a mistake making nice railings.
You say that again?
It was a big mistake making those railings so nice.
The yacht club
You could've
used
got something in the
Garoppolo.
dump for free.
The yacht club used something called Garoppolo, which is.
Yes, that's a similar type
Yeah.
of wood
It's
and,
nice.
does that splinter, do you know? Have you looked at it after a few years? Running your hand on it or anything?
Yeah, it doesn't splinter. It's
Pretty
an
solid.
interlock ring.
I mean, that's another one of
It's
those,
Interlock.
rainforest woods that are, you know, tend to last the longest in our environment and gray out pretty nicely, but come with all kinds of other issues.
The state and federal government are both saying 6 weeks from now, they're gonna close the FEMA and all that, so this needs to be in and approved before then. So if you've got ideas or anything you wanna do, you need to do it now.
Right now, they're budgeting $18,000 for a replacement of the old structure. And they said that if we proposed some changes to the old structure, like this is a change, this design, and we propose things that might go beyond that, they might go an additional 15%, but we would have to come up with more money than that. You know, I imagine the metal roof, you can't get a guy to come down to Castine and do a little pyramid metal roof for about half that. You know,
It's pretty fussy to do.
it's a fussy little project, and you gotta have someone who really knows what they're doing. I have a couple people in mind, but, you know, that could blow half your budget right there on the roof if you go with a nicer roof. But I think our town might wanna try to raise money to get,
It's a total focal point,
I agree.
and you don't want it to look like crap.
I think that was the consensus this morning, so we're trying to detail it in such a way that we think it'll last the longest and look crisp.
We're the most beautiful coastal town in New England, so.
Yeah.
We don't want that moniker though, so maybe I ought to, you know, make it look a little more.
You know that Eagles,
Worn out.
you know that Eagles song that says, you call a place paradise, kiss it goodbye? We're in trouble.
I think the road will take care of it.
How about a cedar roof?
Yeah.
Consider that?
The cedar
Cedar
shingle,
shake, yeah.
like that one we're doing down on Water Street, that red cedar
That
shingle.
the small
That
house,
would look
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do it like that, and, you know, it certainly would handle the seagull crap pretty well.
Might not save much money.
No,
Red single, red
no, but it gives it a little more historic look rather than the material selection. Some people, you know, react poorly to those plastic materials and the metal roof, and it's sort of a very hard building, so it wouldn't be as welcoming as as soon as you put like a red cedar shake on there, of course, you know, it would feel a little more welcoming, I think.
Well, it would tie into the harbor master's cedar shake.
Harbor Master right now is asphalt shingle.
Well, the roofing is, but the side of the building.
Oh, yeah,
cedar
yeah,
shake.
the side, yeah.
Yeah, cedar shake.
Yeah, I designed that too.
All the ideas sound fine to me. I'm unemotional about the.
First gets done.
Yeah,
People
I
can
think
sit
people
down.
are looking for shade.
I'm surprised that anybody in this town would put up with metal
Now,
roof.
this is a point I've heard before, talking about aesthetics.
I don't care, I don't
Those
care.
plastic caps on the pilot, they look like shit. You go to other places,
Red
where you
cedar
get hammered
would
copper over
probably be the
there.
best stuff. Yeah. I think we want to spend some
Sounds
money.
like you should
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
If we want to look
No, we got one pipe.
traditional, something like the red cedar shakes could look pretty sweet.
I suspect you'll hear about it if you do a red seam metal roof, but anyway.
If you do a metal roof, you gotta pick a color. Oh my God.
Yeah, and I think it ought to be a bright color.
Yeah.
Blue, orange.
Oh, safety. You gotta know where to go.
Safety
to.
yellow.
Yeah, the harbor dock is
You've
gone,
been
you know,
here
really
quite a while.
good.
The last structure was painted white with the benches painted green. Do
Yeah.
you think a painted structure is better than a natural wood? Or, if we did this and, we floated a number of different materials out there. You could do it in hemlock, you could do it in like a red cedar. You could
Hemlock
do it.
doesn't last like.
Hemlock splinters.
I don't think the town has the maintenance capacity to paint that as
Yeah.
often as it's needed
I
personally.
think, yeah, low maintenance, that's.
Yeah, they don't seem to paint.
Yeah, I mean, I think the long-term maintenance piece is a little,
Hemlock splinters, and man, you get a splinter from hemlock, you're gonna.
It hurts.
Yeah. it hurts, yeah.
are you particularly looking for guidance from the harbor committee for this?
I
Or,
I was just here to listen, really, but it sounded like you wanted me to tell you what I was trying to do, so I put it out there. That's just a little showing you what we have been talking about, that we need to resolve this kind of thing in the next few weeks so that we can build it before the season gets going. I think that's the goal. And get the finances from FEMA.
well, it sounds
At
like
least part of it.
what we could offer is guidance that we should elevate the FEMA, or suggest to Derek that he elevate the FEMA budget to include a roof that is steel.
Well, FEMA is only going to pay the money to replace what was there.
Okay.
And do we
And
spend,
then they did say they might go an additional 15%. And so I think,
And that
since we
was-
are not building what was there before, we're building something different, then I think we should ask for that additional 15%.
I think they were looking at us saying it's more resilient this way than it was. And if we can get a resiliency factor in there with a little extra money at 15%.
I think you just answered that 15% thing, right, for resiliency. I heard, tell Derek to elevate it to FEMA. Because I am listening.
Yes, but I don't think you're going to get much guidance in terms of the aesthetics from the committee.
Well, I don't know. When Tim says he likes
Well, it'd be
the red
nice to
cedar
have the
roof,
blessing.
I kind of like to.
Well,
I
I
like the
think-
opinion of the old
Well,
guys.
Do you want a blessing of a steel roof versus asphalt roof?
No, I
I
don't think
would
that's part of it. I think, when we talk about it, I think maybe the red cedar is a better idea.
Yeah,
And and that way we could do the.
it would look very classic. If you go red cedar on the roof, it would have a much more classic look. The other one is more modern and crisp. Now, right now, we've got decking that's sort of plastic and modern. And if we go so hard, plasticky stuff everywhere down there, it might start to upset some people.
I think that the cedar shingles will go on easier than the metal.
Oh,
And we probably could do it
We could
without
save on
labor. We may not need to bring a guy in from out of town,
Yeah.
a special roofer to do it.
Now,
you know,
Yeah, you can get carpentry crews.
That
locally to
saves
do
a
it.
lot of money.
Excuse me?
That saves a lot of money.
well, we can do the harbor strap now and it needs it now.
Yeah. Just ice and water it and throw some red cedar shakes on it.
I think if we're trying to preserve some of the crispness of it, probably a painted finish would be better. Rather than a.
I kind of agree with you,
Something, something that's feels
Traditional.
finished and very traditional, yeah.
And you can
That
see
seems
that,
like a good combination, a red cedar roof and painted finish.
and the timbers have the diagonal bracing in them, and of course, water runs down the diagonal bracing to the joint there. So if you paint it, you have the ability to caulk that and do a bunch of other things that really protect it. Whereas if you try to leave everything natural, water sometimes becomes a challenge.
Go back to the bench for a second, you were back and forth. Yeah, the best bench I see in town for outdoor use is down at Madison. They're really fantastic. You sit in, they're very comfortable, they're ergonomically designed, and they seem to take the beating quite a bit. I mean, they're right in the shore. So I don't know if that may cost a lot more money.
what are those oak?
Well, that was done by volunteers out there, and I can't remember what they used for it, but I'll go take a look at it. We are talking about maybe doing, there's a little sketch up there on the whiteboard next to the drawing of some sort of more of a slatted bench rather than the 2x12s that were used as the benching material on the last one. Trying to upgrade it a little bit from that,
Are those teak down?
I thought they were teak.
and sloping, the last one had just a vertical back. Both all around, it didn't have the angle, like a 15-degree angle, it was more comfortable to sit at. So we're looking to do a few of those ergonomic changes. But again, the discussion this morning was, is this bench gonna be a separate piece that you bring in and can take away during a storm, or is it something that we're going to try to tie in? And we kind of thought it would be best to tie it all in and make it all one anchored piece. And so that
Every be tied in, it will make the structure stronger.
And you're gonna have to plug it.
And the kids can run around on the bench and have a good time.
Yeah.
Like a train.
Gonna have to bank the corner.
Has there been any
Sandra,
discussion?
that's for your kids, by the way. They can.
They do that. Yes, David?
Has there been any discussion about how this is this gonna just set on the deck, or is it gonna be tied into the structure below?
Tied in below.
Because with the plastic decking that we have there, that's not gonna support a whole lot of load.
No, we talked about taking up the decking and then having these posts sit on the 4x10s that are underneath it. The floor joists of the deck itself. And then, so half lap those and bolt the posts to those 4x10s. So it's going to be well anchored, and then the plastic can then be cut around these things and put on it. The bench, I think we can set on the plastic. The plastic is supported every foot by a vertical, continuous vertical piece that has some steel in it on the edge of the plastic. Each plastic piece is 1 foot by 4 foot and has a vertical component on the edges.
Well, the benches will have boards on the bottom, so it won't be a point load thing, right?
But
Yeah, there'll be a shoe.
we'll be distributed, evenly on all those
Should
points.
be no problem. Just saying, I should. So yeah, they're tied down.
Dealing with
So,
plastic decking, though, we don't
Detail
really know.
here in this. Ted produced some detail where it lands on the joist.
Posts are gonna go down and tie into the,
Thanks, Ted.
Well, I think then it sounds like a little more consensus, so,
Yes.
cedar roofing, painted materials,
Bench that ties
bench
in.
that,
I think it'll look quite nice that way and be reasonably easy to maintain.
have there been any calculations as to wind loads and uplifting, and whether that's gonna be adequate to tie it, keep it in place?
We're talking, David, we're talking about 6x6 is going down and goes into the 4x10s. So it's gonna be the same similar setup as the decking in the, the beams and the timbers. The way we put all in together and then hold it together.
If there haven't been any calculations on wind load and what, that really ought to be done, because that's in an exposed location.
That's more open than the old one. That drawing, it shows it to be more open than the old one.
And it's designed to be more hurricane proof with the diagonal bracing in all planes. There's diagonal bracing going from on the corners on all posts as well as at the ceiling level going around. So that's similar to the harbor master shed, which has some of that diagonal bracing.
You mean colletized across?
No, up at the top level, going across the corner, you would across the plate, you would go 45
Yeah, I understand.
across the plates as well.
Awful lot of moment at the bottom of those.
I'm not,
There's a lot of moment at the bottom of those posts.
if there's just 4 of them and
Yeah.
a pretty big heavy roof on the top of it. When the wind is gonna catch the roof, right?
Yeah,
So it's that lever.
but it's gonna catch it less than the last roof we had with a pyramid style roof.
Yeah, probably.
And with, one that we had before.
Should the roof have a vent on top to deflate some of this wind? That's it. Not really.
No, I mean, there was a person who came to a select board meeting who wanted to put a weather vane up there. We kind of talked that down. I didn't want to have anything that the students might want to take or encourage anyone to climb up on top of this roof. I think it should be done in a way that let the seagulls sit up on top and call it a day.
So, we want to have a motion to endorse this, or?
That would be nice.
Okay.
That takes a lot of pressure off of me if you endorse it.
And so, we can sketch out a motion here. As people have any further discussion or questions about, have a conceptual idea? Everyone firm on that, or?
I'd like to move that we endorse Ted's plans here with a cedar shingled roof and painted frames
Benches tied in.
and benches tied to the frames.
Non-removal.
All in favor of said motion?
You're endorsed. That and
All
$2 will
opposed?
get you a cup of coffee.
Motion passed.
Hey Scott, I got a question. Does the town own any extra of that decking, plastic decking?
Yes.
Or did?
That pile that was down there, I waited for him to come get it, he didn't, we did.
Because I'm wondering, could that be surface for our new dinghy floats? Save a little money.
There's quite a bit of it down there.
So if you do take it out to bid, you could say, we will provide the
Yeah.
materials for
Yeah.
the decking. 'Cause,
I'll
you know,
measure it. I'd have to
Cedar
measure
boards
it.
are what you do, they're not cheap, so.
I mean, there isn't enough to do 4 floats, but there's a lot there. Quite a few brush street 2x8s there too.
Well, next would be, any new business. I wanted to draw people's attention. There's a couple of, I guess, public notice that the town has shared with me, and I wanted the committee and anyone interested. There's a coastal hazard awareness and a community resilience, I guess, forum on May 28th and May 29th in Northeast Harbor. Those 2 events are coming. And there's a working waterfront data sharing workshop in Ellsworth that has presentations on Wednesday, April 30th. So I have some information here if people want to take a look at that. Anybody?
What's the time on the 30th?
The 30th is 5:30 to 7:30, and there is a Zoom link for listening. Available. Those I emailed out to everybody as well, so that's some information available. Anybody have any new business? Do you have any updates? Did the rowing club find a
Yes,
location?
we're gonna, Kip has given us the okay, on the inside of his face floats. Where there's these piles, David came up with a great idea. We're gonna make an 8-foot square float to go there, and then inside of that, where there is water, even at low tide, we will have our 2 boats tied in. It's right in line with the town dock, which is where we're gonna operate out of, about as close as you can get. His face floats protect us from some of the waves, so it's a good solution. It's a 1 summer solution only. It takes advantage of the fact that there's no deck where there used to be a deck. So that's where we're gonna be, right where that deck was. So that's a great thing. We're good to go. And then, of course, for next summer, we'll talk to the academy. We might have some marina space.
Or you get enough people going through Kip's restaurant that it seems attractive for the following
Just
summer.
like screw the deck, you know?
Well,
Or you could just put a deck on, then you're not dealing with this often.
Well, you
Anyway.
design the den properly, we could have a garage essentially.
Yeah.
Covered boathouse.
How long are these things?
32 and 22.
So one's done already? I saw a picture on the way in, is that one of you? Is that-
Yeah, it's sitting on the side, on the other side of Ben's house for you. Check it out.
Whose house?
It's in the house you built at Clark's house. You know the concrete pad you put down there?
I didn't hear what you said.
You built a house that the Clark's owned up by me.
Oh, yeah.
It's right there on a trailer,
Oh, okay.
all tarped up, waiting for a spring.
I do have a
Still need
suggestion,
orders.
are we able in the budget to get new hoses and,
Yeah.
fittings down for the water?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I threw the old out, there was trash. Gotta figure out something different, some way to grease all these things, so, because they get, in 1-2 seasons, they're almost useless because of the fittings, and you can't buy decent fittings that go in those heavy-duty hoses.
Yeah, a little silicone grease might help.
Once you threw out, the hose is probably still okay, huh?
Hmm?
The hose is probably still okay.
Yeah, but once the fittings are gone, you can't, I tried every fitting that you can find anywhere, Home Depot and Buckswood Hardware and all these places, you just can't get one that fits in there.
That's,
Fittings don't fit,
That's right.
it's dangerous.
Misfits.
anyone have any further business? Well, then we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Ted.
Looks like you're
Thank you.
nice little boat, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's nice.
I didn't really look at that close until I started walking. Oh, yeah. Hey. 2 feet long, a little bit wider and about 75.
It's amazing how 2 feet.
Oh, that's
what I have to get that sorted out.
Short of, wide for a.
Were you satisfied
Folding
with
over
what
and
they
down
said
and all
about
that stuff, and all the
COVID loads?
original.
I honestly don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
You would be in a better position to answer those questions, but yeah, I agree, that should be evaluated.
Yeah, I think that's critical. With an open roof like that and with the slope toward the most exposed direction, there's a fair
Yeah,
amount
I always
of
like to get the sample.
that you can get.
I can look at the parachutes.
Yeah.
And
it'll, and so
Actually, Scott, no, I think there's some meeting in here. If
needs to
somebody
be,
comes late, I'll get it when I leave.
All right.
it makes sense to
You
me.
didn't want to come.
I mean, you either take the pragmatic approach. and
They're
hope it's
already
okay.
here.